Yes, Seton O'Connor.
Is home court advantage real? Yes or no?
Oh.
Didn't we have a professor, and I don't know what his professor degree or whatever his doctorate was in, but I think it had to do with the psychological aspect of a home court advantage. Yes, Paulie.
Yeah, we discussed this a long time ago. I think we were discussing football, and we had a professor at a big college send us a note that said there are some studies that say the facts say it's real, where like the results of the game say it's real, but how do you get there? And it says like it's almost like a placebo effect. If you believe something's going to happen, it will. We're so conditioned, at least in American sports, to believe that it's going to be easier because we're at home. You play looser, and vice versa. Hostile environment, you play tighter, and thus perception becomes reality with the results of those games. Also, there's a professor at Yale University who went step by step, sport by sport, and found out which sports had the most home field advantage.
And which sports do?
Who wants to guess?
The best home court advantage.
And think of all sports, not just maybe NFL, NBA. A little hint there.
I'm going to go hockey.
Soccer.
I'm going to go soccer.
Soccer is correct, Dan.
I'm going to go socky.
Soccer is correct.
That's soccer and hockey combined.
In basketball, NBA teams win 62.7% of their home games.
Mm-hmm.
In baseball, it's only 54%. Big difference.
Okay. That sounds like a stat of the day, Marvin.
Stat of the day, stat of the day.
Come on, let's go now. Come on. Not the weekend anymore. Bop, bop.
Here comes that what?
Stat of the day. All righty. Yes, Seton.
Is that real, or is it a mental thing, like Paul was saying?
Well, I think there's a mental aspect, but there still has to be the physical aspect of actually going out and playing, performing. You got players like Minnesota's at home, and they lost both of those games. You had the defending champs came in there and almost amped up even more because on the road they have to win.
Well, it is interesting, though, to say that it is mental because so much of sports is mindset and is mental.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Aside from the physical part of it, which is obviously a big one, but the mental part of it is massive.
Well, I think you have to be at a certain level talent-wise to get to be a professional. Then you factor in the other things of your approach, the mental aspect of this. We're on the road, or you're playing against a certain player or a certain team. So, yes, there's a lot of thinking that goes in before you start to perform, because usually when you start to perform, you're not thinking as much. The preparation going into a game. Do you prepare more because you're on the road? Do you prepare more you're at home? I always liked, just the backdrop when you're shooting. When I was at home playing a home game, just the backdrop, it was comfortable. A lot of times you'll go to an arena or a gym and you'll go depth perception-wise. Or if you're playing in a big arena or a dome and just that background. Football field, certain fields feel different, look different. I remember going to Green Bay the first time, and I was amazed that they painted grass on the dirt, towards the end zone. And, just location of stands, the fans, so I guess there's a lot of things that you could factor into this. Indiana going home, I'm not surprised they won both of those games. Minnesota staying at home, and Denver comes there and they lose both of those. I was surprised at that. Denver, this is what we expect out of Denver. You're supposed to win games, big games, and they prove that. Dallas going to Oklahoma City. I'm not surprised they've won in OKC. OKC still learning how to play in these big games. And I also think you have to factor in the experience that players have, coaches have, when you go into these games. How many times have you been in this? The number of times that you're involved in something, and then you do it again, and then you do it again. It's like the first time we did our Super Bowl show in Miami. I'm like, oh, my God. We're on the road. I have no idea what's going to happen. It's raining in Miami. We're outside. What guests are showing up? Just the comfort level. Now, when we go to the Super Bowl, like, Vegas, now you know what you're doing, what to expect, and everybody else does. So even though you're on the road, you try to create that kind of home feel there. Yeah, Paulie.
This Yale study was from a few years ago, goes step by step through the conditions for home field advantage. And they said, surprisingly, weather teams don't do better. Like Green Bay has no statistical advantage by playing at home over other teams. This is good. They said the biggest factor for home field advantage is, who wants to guess it? The biggest factor where they can prove it with statistics. Referees. They said it's a fact, and it's a proven fact, that you get more calls at home. You also get more calls in tight situations at end of games. They said this is pervasive in all sports, soccer, hockey, basketball, football.
Any coach complaining about the officiating over the weekend? Felt like that's what everybody was doing prior to the weekend. Rick Carlisle, okay? I did. Now, if I'm Rick Carlisle, I say, hey, we won those games, but we noticed there were 29 calls that we want the league to see. Like, don't stop. Like, you won, don't stop. I would go wire to wire and just say, hey, we're going to single out, you're going to get more calls. As I said, they'll go home and we won't hear anything about this. Maybe hear something about it from the Knicks. Thibodeau, I think after game 3 did say something. Yesterday had no room to say anything.